and that's okay.
That's fine. Right. It's not none of our business where they are. But what is our business right now, Grayson? And it just announced, or not announced, it's been reported that this Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC alliance is going to happen. And what it is right now is pretty simple. It's just a scheduling alliance. That's all it's going to be for the time being. And I'm sure that comes across all sports, but mainly for football. Eventually you're going to make it work for everything. Because, again, why do it if it's just for one thing? But basketball especially will benefit from this greatly. But I think, this is terrible news for the Big 12 that they've been left out of this. And what I don't understand is, especially given that there's 4 schools in Texas, which is a recruiting hotbed, and that's your beat, Grayson, is recruiting, why you wouldn't want to include them in this.
Yeah, it's really weird. And I will say this morning, I saw the story from Nicole Auerbach, and that's where I kind of really saw this first this morning. I think it was like 7 a.m. I posted it on the board. But it was interesting the way that she phrased her tweet. She said, the Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC are expected to make a formal announcement about their alignment soon, perhaps as early as next week. But she said, this isn't just about scheduling. So I don't know what that means as far as the schedule alliance, if it's going to be deeper than that. But it is very interesting that the Big 12 keeps getting left out of these conversations, and it kind of doesn't make sense to me. Bob Bowlesby went and had that meeting with the Pac-12 commissioner, and I guess nothing came of that. But I'm having a hard time believing that literally nothing is going to come of that for the Big 12. As far as recruiting goes, you're right to a certain extent. Why wouldn't these Texas schools be involved? Why wouldn't you want to get them involved? But on the flip side, if there's only 2 Texas schools that are Power 5 in the state of Texas, that's honestly not a bad disadvantage for the schools in the West Coast, because Texas and A&M can only take so many. Mm-hmm. If Oklahoma State, Baylor, TCU, and Tech are left out, all those kids in the state of Texas are going to have to find other places to play, and that's extremely unfortunate. I'm sure the Texas high school coaches are not happy about that, and so hopefully Bob Bowlesby can get that fixed, and hopefully the Texas schools can remain at that level.
Yeah, I just, initially, and the other thing about this is right away, this is not going to be about more money. Maybe for the Pac-12, because their TV granted rights comes up in 2 years, they'll be able to skim some more money by saying, listen, we got USC and Ohio State are going to play, 2 years on and 2 years off for 20 years, and, Stanford's going to get to play Michigan and all these things. They're going to have all these, great Oregon and Wisconsin will play, all those great things. Or Florida State will play, UCLA, cool matchups. Clemson and Ohio State, Clemson and Michigan, all these things that can happen between these 3 leagues. And the scheduling, it improves your scheduling, and maybe it improves the value of your overall product when you're trying to compete with, we don't know how much the SEC is going to make adding these 2 teams. We don't know. We just know it's going to be more, and they're already making a lot. And it was still just the second most, because the Big Ten had the most at $50 million, and the SEC was right behind them. Now the SEC, they might be able to say a number.
They might. Yeah. I think you're right about that. I think an area that is of great interest to me, and this has a recruiting aspect, also just kind of a logistics aspect, is the simple fact that, okay, Miami is going to go play Oregon. Okay, think about that trip. That is going literally all the way across the country. That's ACC versus Pac-12. That's a problem, but the even bigger problem is the fact that a kid from, say, the state of Texas that plays in Oregon does not get a single game in the state of Texas for their entire career unless it's a bowl game. That's not appealing to recruits at all. Especially kids that are from the state of Texas. They usually want to play some schools from the state of Texas, or at least be able to play some games in the state. So I find that fascinating, as well as just the logistics part of it, traveling that distance and not really getting to play in front of your family and friends. That's not a great draw for certain schools. Now, for Ohio State, Clemson, the bigger schools, it probably doesn't matter as much. But for those little ones, that kind of matters, because a lot of kids go to that school because of the location of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, geography isn't taken into account by ESPN and the TV networks doing this. It's not even really taken into account in the schools and the logistics of flying all over the place to play these games. Because, look, for football, in particular, like basketballs probably would be a little bit tougher because you've got some midweek stuff that would wear you down. If you're going to do a scheduling alliance, especially in the non-conference time, and Duke has to fly out and play Oregon on a Tuesday, like that's gonna be tough. I mean, that's tough. But for football, like you're talking about 1 day a week. I mean, no matter. Here's how football teams do this: if they play on Saturday, they leave where they're going to be either Thursday night or Friday morning. And then once the game's over, they leave the stadium. They go get on a plane and they come home. So you're in a hotel for 2 nights maximum. And the only time you'd be in a hotel for more than that is if there's like weather or something like that gets you stuck where you are. So for football, when people are like, man, that's a long way for, Oregon State to go, like it's not really that big of a deal. Like,
yeah, you're right. I mean, the time change isn't fun either, though.
No.
I mean, the fact that you're going to go all the way to Oregon and your game isn't till probably what do they normally do? The 10:30.
Well, 11? I mean, if it's an 8 o'clock or if it's a 7 o'clock kick on the West Coast, it's a 10 o'clock kick on the East Coast.
Right.
So that means that Boston College is going to play Stanford at 10 o'clock in Boston.
Yeah, that's good for their fans and TV viewership and all of that, right?
No, it's just going to be like drunk guys in Southie going, look at the game is on. That's all they're going to see it. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to make it better in that like it will, for television, you'll have cross regional appeal. So, and you'll have less of the games of, and fans will find this as they get older in that, like, you'll be like, oh, who's my team playing? It's like, oh, Jacksonville State. Well, I can miss that one. I'll watch this other game or I'll flip over to it. Or I will go I'll go to a game that's not my team because I have tickets and not worry about, missing my team because it's not. But like all of a sudden, if you're a North Carolina fan and they're going to play Indiana, which is a good team, like, well, okay, well, that's better than, Wofford.
That's true. That's very true. And this scheduling alliance or alignment or whatever they're trying to really accomplish with this will definitely help that. And, the non-conference schedule will be much more comparable to what the SEC is going to face in conference, which I think is the biggest reason for this is because in the SEC, I mean, it's going to be crazy. I mean, the teams that they're going to play, I think we're at a point now where when Texas and OU go to the SEC, they're probably going to end up every single year. Let's just say the college football playoff goes to 12 teams. They're going to get at least 5 in because of how strong the schedule is. So these other conferences need to make up that difference and find a way to make sure that their conference champion will get in and that they have a great shot at getting a second team in as well. So I think that's what they're trying to do with this. But I will say, I'm curious your thoughts on this. First of all, is it weird that Bob Bowlesby had this meeting and nothing came of it? And second, where does this leave the Big 12?
I mean, that's the thing.